Delusions, Mr. E. Delusions. I'd like to start off by saying Barak Yahweh, Bahashem Yahushai, Bahashem, Rachakwadash. Welcome to another live lesson. Salaki for a minute. All right, and pretty much this is just a lesson based off of the latest news of these so-called, U.S. shooting down these so-called UFOs, so-called UAPs. And we know it's total bullshit, but one thing I will say, it's being used as a distraction, because from what I understand, there was something, a brother sent me either an article or a video, I think it was an article that this guy, I believe his name is Jeff, to the Ep to the Steen, got to say it that way for the algos. And he was dropping some names, so ever since he dropped those names, there's been a lot of things going on. The Turkey earthquake, this so-called shooting down of these so-called aliens. And my man Eddie to the word, Snow to the Den, says, Snow to the Den calls UFO craze a distraction. Talk of aliens intends to misdirect from real scandals, the NSA whistleblower says. Okay, and I didn't really read this. I actually saw the movie. It was a pretty good movie that they did of this guy. I don't know. I forget the actor's name. He's a pretty good actor. He's been in a lot of movies. But pretty much all this stuff is a distraction, and that's pretty much what he wants. He wants people distracted from everything that's going on. One of the things is, the scandal, with the Ep to the Steen going on, and other things going on, and this so-called shooting down of the so-called UFOs is nothing more than a distraction. Now this here is called the Daily Star, which the Daily Star, Daily Beast, all the different other newspapers and magazines is nothing more, they're pretty much tabloids, which tabloids are pretty much considered to be, half truth, half joke, sensationalized, as it says here. For the definition, a newspaper having pages half the size of those of a standard newspaper, typically popular in style and dominated by headlines, photographs, and sensational stories. So that's what they do. But what it is they put the truth in there, mixed with a whole bunch of bugged out, articles, to make it seem like whoever speaks about that particular thing that's actually true, it belongs in the nut house of the news, which are these tabloids. Now, when we go down, it says, what is considered a tabloid? A tabloid is a newspaper that has small pages, short articles, and a lot of photographs. Tabloids are usually considered to be less serious than other newspapers. All right, but in here, it says, what is the feared Project Bluebeam and why aliens and NASA could be involved? And pretty much this is something that not many people speak about, Project Bluebeam. And we've spoken about this plenty of times, which is like I guess for lack of better words, a holographic machine that they can project images in the sky, and they've been planning to do this for a while. But when you look it up, it said, no, it's false. The NSA and the Pentagon and so, and no, nah, hell to the nah, and all of that other, all that other crap, but it's because they're trying to hide the truth from the public. I mean, they show it to you, they tell you what's coming, but then when you try to do the research, they say it's all nonsense. And the average person, once they hear that, they get turned off from it. So, like it for a minute. So be it as it may, we're going to read some of this. It says Project Bluebeam was first exposed in the mid-1990s by Canadian investigative journalist Serge Monist. Despite his death 2 years later, I wonder why. The theory has resurfaced in recent days. Yeah, because of the things that have been seen. And the Esau is doing things. That situation out there in Turkey, the earthquake that is over 30,000 people, if I'm not mistaken, something along those lines, that have been killed in that earthquake. There were certain things seen before, the actual earthquake, and we believe it was the HAARP, not the harp that King David played, but the harp that E plays, which they manipulate the elements to cause, change in weather, change in storms, change in earthquakes and things of that nature. They trigger stuff like that. So, it says the world is reeling from the possibility that the U.S. shot down an alien spaceship, which they did not. Those are just delusions, Mr. E. Earlier this month, that's an inside joke, by the way. It's a play on a Twilight Zone episode, The Obsolete Man, it was called. But conspiracy theorists are claiming that it was actually to do with something called Project Bluebeam. Right, and when you look this up, you're going to find varying resources. Some say yay, but most say nay. If like they label everything, when they want to put everything in a box, they label it conspiracy theorists. But when you go back to all of the things that they've labeled conspiracy theorists or conspiracy theory over the years, now all of those so-called conspiracy theories are actual conspiracy facts, because they're actually coming to pass, as the people spoke about them. Anyway, the Pentagon yesterday, Sunday, February 13, refused to rule out the possibility that 3 unidentified flying objects shot down in as many days over North America are of alien in origin. Now, you could have something that is unidentifiable, but doesn't necessarily mean that it was a so-called spacecraft from space, which they know what the chariots are. They know. You best better believe that Esau knows. Scriptures say that they are wiser than Daniel. So they know about the chariots. And this is why for a long time they've been hiding it. Because if not, then what the hell were those vehicles that were over the White House back in 54, during the Eisenhower administration, if I'm not mistaken. They had a whole bunch of chariots over the Capitol building, and then the very first thing they did was they sent out a bunch of jets from the Air Force to shoot them down. But by the time they got there, the chariots were gone. Now, they could have just took off, or they could have just cloaked themselves. And they were still there, but he couldn't see them. It says, while a gigantic airship that was shot down by U.S. F-22 fighters on February 4th has been conclusively linked to China, the 3 other objects sighted over Alaska, Michigan, and Canada have been harder to classify. It says U.S. Air Force General Glenn Van Herk told reporters that the intelligence service were exploring all possibilities when it came to the origin of the octagonal craft. And the chariots can morph into different, shapes. Like when we go to, matter of fact, let's go there real quick. When we go to, matter of fact, let me put that there. We go to Zechariah, the 5th chapter. And the first verse, then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. So this was a circular object, a circular chariot that, the prophet Zechariah saw. And the chariots are also described as doves. They're described as clouds. They're described as whirlwinds, and they can morph, they can change, they can shoot from space, to the air, to the earth, to the waters. You know, they could appear, disappear, grow bigger, grow smaller. And these devils can't do nothing with that. There was some footage, NASA footage years ago. I forget the name of it. I know there was one with the tether, which they show is a craft, you know, moving through, and it showed how big it was compared to the tether. But there was another one where they showed a chariot, an object moving. And then all of a sudden you see a flash of light. But before you saw the flash of light, the chariot took off in the opposite direction. Then you saw the flash of light. Then you saw a laser shoot by. That was Esau shooting a laser at the chariot. But by the time they even hit the button to shoot it, the chariot was already gone. So you ain't going to do nothing with that, my ninja. The brother, the young elder Hawad from North Carolina, from July 12 to 29, 1952, a series of unidentified flying objects, UFO sightings, were reported in Washington, D.C. and later became known as the Washington Flap, the Washington National Airport. Check that out. It says sightings or the invasion of Washington. Yep, check that out. Yep, this is another good one. Beautiful. Isaiah 31:5, as birds flying, right? Because the chariots are also identified as birds, as doves. It says, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem, and this is how the Lord is coming to deliver us. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. Right, because he's coming to deliver the purchased possession. So Isaiah chapter 60 verse 8 says, who are these that fly as a cloud? Because sometimes they are identified as clouds. And as the doves to their windows. And doves, you know, fly. You know, you have different colored doves, but it says to their windows, because you have chariots that have windows around them. You know, Lord's will, if we get into it in Ezekiel, the first chapter, we can make those points. So, with that being said, let's go back to Zechariah 5. Then I turned and lifted up my eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. And he said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying roll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. So this was a smaller chariot. Now they say a cubit is 18 inches from the elbow to the I'm not sure if it's the pinky finger, you know, or whatever the case may be. But you got to remember, back then men were bigger, you know. So the cubit today is different from the cubit in the past. But nevertheless, this wasn't a huge chariot. You know, it was a smaller chariot. It was only 20 cubits by 10 cubits. All right. It says, then said he unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. The curse to Esau, the curse to the nations, and the curse to the Israelites that are not a part of the elect. Because when Yahushua comes back with the angels, one of the things he's going to do is he's going to be cutting people asunder with the lasers. You've heard Elder Apostle Gabar bring that out, you know, in other lessons, that those chariots and lasers are going to come and cut people in half. And this is why in the book, not the book, in the movie War of the Worlds, the newer one with Tom Cruise, they show you the tripods coming up out of the earth, and they show you what? Shooting lasers and turning people to dust, you know, eviscerating them, turning them into vapors. It says, for everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it. And who is the stealer? The thief? Esau. The thief cometh not but for to steal, to kill, and to destroy. It says, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. Yeah, because they make you swear in, although they have the scriptures. That's why the Lord said that they don't follow instructions. They have the scriptures, but they don't follow the instructions within the scriptures. You know, because they make everybody swear in on the Bible, you know, and the Lord said not to swear at all, neither by heaven nor by earth. It says, I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief. So Esau is the thief. And this is why it's entering into Esau's house. They've been around. They've been here for the longest. But now in 2023, you know, and before this, they're making themselves more known. making their presence known. Because the Lord Salaki for that. Because the Lord is about to do some things. It says, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely by my name, and they know the name of the Most High, and they're swearing falsely, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof, and the stones thereof, right? Because this goes hand in hand with Habakkuk, the 2nd chapter, because the elements shall melt with fervent heat, and the timber and the stones that represents, homes, buildings, which are made out of stone and timber, and with their foundations and the rest, so on and so forth. So going back to this, like I said, this is a tabloid, but they're bringing out a lot of points. It says, when asked whether the involvement of aliens or extraterrestrials had been ruled out, he replied, I'll let the intel community and the counterintelligence community figure that out. I haven't ruled out anything. And why is that? Because they know that they're the Chariots, and they know that eventually, they want to, use this Project Bluebeam in whatever form they're going to use it, and it was said that in the past, they were going to show, in the air, they were going to show a picture of the different so-called gods, of the nations, and eventually they were going to show so-called Jesus, which was the other white meat, and introduce the so-called, as they call it, the so-called Antichrist, which is no such thing as one Antichrist, as the one ruler of the whole planet. The ruler of the planet are the Edomites, beginning with the international banking families and their cronies underneath them. All right. Let's see what else we got. Well, here it says, Project Bluebeam claims images such as these could be made by giant laser beam projections. And they could. You mean to tell me that they can project, pictures where you go to the movie theater and you see movies on a screen, and they can't project it up here? You got projections that they got now. You could buy a projector and the whole front of your house could be the screen, and they've been had this technology. So it's impossible for them to do this. It says, however, social media has been taken over by talk of something known as Project Bluebeam, the bizarre theory. So see, they call it bizarre, they call it theories, because anybody that believes in this are a bunch of nuts, because this is what they do when they're trying to hide their agenda, which has never been proven, right? Well, it hasn't been proven because, you have all of the proof, Claims that NASA and other U.S. secret agents from the Pentagon teamed up to create a project creating fear and panic within the public and to turn them against religion. Right, and the reason why it hasn't been proven is because it's that secret, It says, using giant laser beam projections, it is thought that hyper-real giant alien spacecraft or even space-like beasts will be projected into the sky to create the illusion that an invasion is underway, right? And this is why Ronald Reagan, I forget what year that was, in the 80s, he made that speech. So if this was a bunch of hogwash, then why would the president of the United States, the president of the so-called free world, make a speech on so-called aliens? If we found out that there was an alien force out there, would now we leave our differences and defend against it or something along those lines? Why would he make such a statement like that? Because they know that these things are true. And what they do is piecemeal, they get the people ready for it, for what's coming. All right? And you could read, well, it says here, according to a 2008 report featured on several conspiracy sites, the project has their main purposes to abolish all religions, because that's what they want, a one world religion, which is their religion, the worshiping of Satan, and replace them with the one world religion based on the cult of man. Abolish all national identities to create a one world movement. Nova Soto Seclorum? Anyone? To remove the notion of family. Yeah, that's why they're breaking up man and woman, and they're frowning upon people that say man and woman or male the bathroom that we went to when we went to go get some food for lunch before we went to camp. You know, where it had a man, it had a woman, it had a half man, half woman, you know, half dress and half pants, you know, long hair, short hair, and then it had an alien. 4 symbols. But this is, but you know, and you see that they're breaking up the families, you know. The men are acting like women, the women are acting like men, as the scriptures say, changing of kind. So these are conspiracies? No, these are actually happening. It says to remove the notion of family and force everyone to work for a new one world government, and that's what they're pushing for. Did not Daddy Bush Sr. or Daddy Bush say that in 1991, September 11, 1991? What is it? Stake here is a new world order or something like that. So here it is. When they speak about it, it's cool. But when you speak about it, you're just a conspiracy nut. Generally, a conspiracy theorist is a nut. And you know, you could read the rest of this. There's not much left. You know, but the point is that they're pushing that hard because they know that the chariots are here, and they've been here, and they're making themselves more known now than before. So what I want to do is I'm going to go into this scripture that I had wanted to go into in one of the lessons that I did, but I didn't get a chance to because, you know, we were into the hour mark, and this would have took a little longer than that. So I'm going to get to this, but just bear with me 1 second. I'll be right back. All right, so it says the Arameans plot to capture Elisha. Elisha was the understudy of Elijah. He took over Elijah's place when Elijah was translated up into the heavens in a chariot, by the way. And pretty much Elisha was given the king of Israel, you know, instructions through the spirit of not to go to this place or to that place because there was an ambush waiting for them. And then the king of the Arameans or Syria, he was like, look, and somebody got to tell me who's on Israel's side, because every time I'm about to do something, somebody tells him. And then his men told him, no, it's Elisha, the prophet, that's doing that. So he set up his military to come up against one man. You know, the whole military, that portion of their military to come up against Elisha the prophet. Wow. I said, wow. Anyways, Salaki, I'm just feeling a little dovish this morning. Then the king of Syria warred against Israel and took counsel with his servants, saying, in such a place shall be my camp. And the men of the Most High sent it to the king of Israel, saying, beware that thou pass not such a place, for thither the Syrians are come down. And the king of Israel sent to the place which the man of the Most High told him and warned him of, and saved himself there, not once nor twice. Therefore the heart of the king of Syria was sore troubled for this thing, and he called his servants and said unto them, will you not show me which of us is for the king of Israel? And one of his servants said, none, my lord, O king, but Elisha the prophet that is in Israel telleth the king of Israel the words that thou speakest in thy bedchamber. And he said, go and spy where he is, that I may send and fetch him. And it was told him, saying, behold, he is in Dotham. Therefore send he thither horses and chariots and a great host against one man. And they came by night and compassed the city about. So you know what they're thinking, man. We're gonna get this guy. We're gonna tear him apart. We're gonna destroy him. You know. They had this vicious army, and this is why King David said, "Though a troop encamp against me, yet will I not fear." It says, "When the servant of the man of the Most High was risen early and gone forth, behold, and hosts compassed the city both with horses and chariots." So there was a great military that pretty much surrounded him. And his servant said unto him, the servant of Elisha, "Alas, my master, how shall we do?" Yeah, because he was nervous, because he didn't know what was going on. And all he saw was military. He saw the Syrians, he saw chariots, he saw javelins, spears, swords, arrows, bows. You know, he saw these military men that was about to get busy on them. You know, and what could they do? Right? Just them two. It says, and he answered, "Fear not, for they that be with us are more than they that be with them." I love this story, you know, because it's heavy. But the thing was that the angels were there, the chariots were there, but they couldn't be seen, unbeknownst to the king of Syria, you know, his army and all of that. It says, and Elisha prayed and said, "Lord Yahweh, I pray thee, open his eyes," meaning the young man that served him, "that he may see." And the Lord opened the eyes of the young man, and he saw, and behold, the mountain was full of horses and chariots of fire round about Elisha. So when he opened his eyes, the Lord opened his eyes, he saw all of the chariots and the angels up in the heavens. And they were an innumerable multitude in comparison to that innumerable army that the king of Syria had sent. You know? And when they came down to him, Elisha prayed unto the Lord and said, "Smite this people, I pray thee, with blindness." And he smote them with blindness according to the word of Elisha. And Elisha said unto them, "This is not the way, neither is this the city. Follow me, and I will bring you to the man whom ye seek." But he led them to Samaria. And I think that was the main point. You know? Yeah, I think that was the main point. That, you know, the Lord did not allow this military, you know, this great military, to do Elisha or the man that was with Elisha any harm. You know, that was heavy. Super, super heavy. All right, so now let's move to the next one. So how in the hell, here it is, you have chariots of fire, you know, full of, you know, horses, which represent power, and chariots of fire round about, and you can't see them. But you're gonna fight against them. You're gonna beat them, like that dickhead said. Yeah, you know, we no one has the capabilities, the power capability that we have. You know, we'll take down any army. Yeah, well, you ain't gonna take down the Lord's army, because the Lord set up your army. The Lord mustereth the host of the battle. The Lord is known as the Lord of Sabaoth, Yahweh Tazabawath, which is the Lord of the armies. What you gonna do with that? You couldn't even shoot down one chariot, you know, with your laser technology that you have out there in the heavens, you know, whether it's a satellite or whatever the case may be. The chariot saw your ass coming a mile away. And before the chariot, before you even got a chance to push the button, before you even hit the button, the chariot turned. They didn't even turn. It just shot back the other way. It was moving one way. It shot the other way. You see the flash, and then you see the laser coming through. It shit was, and I know that those lasers move at the speed of light, but the way that chariot made that laser look, it made it look like it was Slowpoke Rodriguez. You know, that's how slow that laser was moving in comparison to the chariot. And the chariots move at lightning speed. Let's go to Ezekiel 1 and 4, and hopefully I can find the main point. We're going to start at the first verse, but I would just want to just kind of jump around a little bit. Boom. There we go. That's one of them. All right. So Ezekiel 1 and 4, and I looked, and behold, a whirlwind came out of the north. This is a chariot. A great cloud. So this is a huge cloud, a huge chariot, and a fire enfolding itself. And when we go to the movie ID4, all right, let's see if this comes up. You could watch the movie, or you could let's see. Okay, I fucked up. Salakia. Excuse my Swahili. Here we go. Yep, beautiful. There we go. That's from the movie ID4, Independence Day. And you can see the city, you can see the bridge, and you can see the chariot coming through the cloud, and you see the fire unfolding in it within itself. You know, this is what Ezekiel saw in his vision. It says, and a fire unfolding itself, and the brightness was about it, right, from the lights, you know, and from the glory of the Lord. And out of the midst thereof, as the color of amber, which amber is like a yellowish, orangey, kind of brownish color, out of the midst of the fire. Okay. It says, also out of the midst thereof came the likeness of 4 living creatures. And these 4 living creatures were actually angels. Satan tried to make me say, those are aliens. No, aliens. No, those are the angels. And this was their appearance. They had the likeness of a man, right? Because they are men. But they can appear in different shapes, different forms. It says, and everyone had 4 faces. And these 4 faces, which he actually saw, 4 faces, is a representation of the 4 different characteristics of the angels. And everyone had 4 wings, and their feet were straight feet, and the sole of their feet was like the sole of a calf's foot. A calf's foot is what? Cloven footed. You know. So what he saw was not a half man, half beast. You know, or it could have appeared that way. But I remember in the old school, it was taught that they had those, you know, those ninja boots that have the toe separate from the rest of the boot, you know, and it looks like a cloven foot. So that could have been it. Let's see if I could find something like that. Just bear with me 1 second. Let me see if I can find a bigger one. I found one, but let's see if I can find a bigger. You want to see a bigger gun? Inside joke. That's good, but just bear with me. Let me see with. Let's see what this is all about. There's a whole bunch of stuff here. I'm just trying to get the right one. Apparently this is something that all right, let's try this one here. So like I'm just trying to find the right. I guess this will have to do. This is probably too small. Yep. Let's see. There you go. I mean, it's not the best, but as you can see there, so it's possible that they had, you know, boots on like that because they were actually angels, or he could have seen them, you know, the way, you know, could have seen them like because they did see the face of like different creatures. One of them was a man. It says, and they sparkled like the color of burnished brass because they were so-called black men. All right. And the faces was a representation of their characteristics. It says, and they had the hands of a man under their wings, on their four sides, and they four had their faces and their wings. Their wings were joined one to another. They turned not when they went. Right. So in other words, when they went, they didn't have to, like when we go, we have to turn in order to move, especially when you're going fast, but they don't have to turn. They could be going one way, and then just go the other way, or just come backwards. They hovering, they marakaputhing, but in a righteous way. The inside joke on the marakaputh part. That goes way back. It says that every one of them, they went every one straight forward. Right, they didn't have to turn when they went. It says, as the likeness as for the likeness of their faces, they four had the face of a man, because a man represents what? Wisdom. And the face of a lion, the lion represents courage. On the right side, and they four had the face of an ox represents strength. On the left side, they four had also the face of an eagle, and the eagle represents what? That they could fly. Sometimes they appear with wings, but doesn't necessarily have to have wings all the time. They could fly with or without the wings. So let's just, it says verse 12, and they went everyone straight forward. In other words, they didn't have to turn. Whether the spirit was to go, they went, and they turned not when they went. Right. In other words, when the chariot went, the angel went, because the angels were in the chariot. They saw the angels outside of the chariot, described it, but then you also had angels that were inside of the chariot, and the angels would guide the chariot, so you could better understand. And the matter of fact, there is a there is an actual, let's see if this gives me a good picture. Yeah, this is actually the picture, but I don't know if it's gonna give me a big enough. Matter of fact, wait a minute, hold it. Here we go. Yeah, this is a better picture. Let me get rid of this one. This is the picture here. These are the two chariots, as you can see, flying in the air, which they knew back then. I'm not sure what year this picture was, but this was I believe this was either during the Byzantine Empire, or it could have been during the Renaissance period, or this could be whitewashed from, but when you look at this one here, you could see better that the two pictures here on the side have beings or men inside of them. These are the angels, the chariots and the angels. All right. And this is in art. So this is what we're reading here. Excuse me. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire. Yeah, because they had a glow around them. And like the appearance of lamps, same thing. It went up and down among the living creatures. Why? Because they were glowing. It says, and the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning. Okay? And the living creatures ran and returned as the appearance of a flash of lightning. So they were moving fast. Just like the I'm not sure what, how many of you actually saw that footage. I'm not sure if you could even find it. I'm not even sure if you can find it on YouTube, but it shows you the chariot coming. Then the chariot slowed down, and all of a sudden the chariot took off the other way. And then you see the flash of light, and then you see the laser being shot. Because them chariots move fast. All right. It says, now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. And this chariot was also the shape of it was circular. And Ezekiel described it as a wheel. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of a barrel, which is green. And they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. Right. So it was like two circular objects. It looked like two circular objects within itself. Let me see if I put in Ezekiel Ezekiel's chariot. Let's see what comes up. All right, which they're going to show pictures of Edomites, but just to give you an idea. There you go, a wheel within a wheel. As you see right there. Look at this. Just disregard this, just look at this. And this is somewhat what he saw. A wheel within a wheel. It didn't necessarily have to be this way. It could have actually been a wheel within a wheel, because you have lights that go around in the chariots. And it also describes them as eyes. It says, now as I beheld the living creatures, behold, one wheel upon the earth by the living creatures with his four faces. The appearance of the wheel was let me read it again. The appearance of the wheels and their work was like unto the color of beryl, and they four had one likeness, and their appearance and their work was as it were a wheel in the middle of a wheel. When they went upon their four sides, and they turned not when they went, right? Because they didn't have to turn like you do here. It says, as for their rings, the rings is a representation of the windows. They were so high that they were dreadful, and their rings were full of eyes round about them. Four, right? We're dealing with the chariot itself. And this is why here you see it looks like it has like little eyes, but that's a representation of the windows. All right. And you could read the rest of this. You get that's the gist of it. But I just wanted to bring out the point that they move lightning speed. So how in the hell can you catch something like that or shoot something like that? You have pictures or video. We're not sure, if it's actually real or not, but they show chariots in the sky, and I believe it was the Iranians and other nations trying to shoot them down, and they couldn't get them. Now we don't know if that was actual footage or if that was something that was staged, but the point is that they can't shoot them down. The Lord ain't gonna allow his chariots to get shot down. There ain't gonna be no casualties on the Lord's side. Esau's gonna have all the casualties. The nations are gonna have the casualties. Jacob's gonna have the casualties. The angels ain't gonna have no casualties. All right. So let's move on to the next precept, which the next precept is in the book of 2 Maccabees 5, which Elder Pastor goes to this a lot. This is a very good history on the chariots. It says, about the same time Antiochus prepared his second voyage into Egypt, and then it happened that through all the city for the space almost of 40 days there were seen horsemen running in the air in cloth of gold and armed with lances like a band of soldiers, right? Because the angels are the Most High soldiers. You see, that is when the Lord said the Lord of hosts, this is one of his angels. The angels are one of his armies. You have the physical army on the earth, which is Esau and his militaries and the other nations. You have the angels, which are the Most High's military. You have the not the UFO, the missiles, which is another army. You have locusts, which is another army of the Most High. It all depends on what army he's sending against the people. This happens to be the angels. And troops of horsemen in array, encountering and running on one against another, right? So they were sporting, and it speaks about gold. Where is it? Cloth of gold, because the chariots, some of them are gold, some of them are silver, some of them are green, some of them are white. It depends, on what the Lord wanted to be. It says, with shaking of shields and the multitude of pikes. So they pretty much were sporting in the air, and drawing of swords and casting of darts and glittering of golden ornaments and harness of all sorts. So when this was described, it was described as a war, scenario, but it was more so like a practice, or sport. It says, wherefore every man prayed that the apparition might turn to good, right? Because when you see the chariots, man, the scriptures say that they shall enter into the house of the thief. When either you saw the prophets or the chariots, you wanted to know if it was for good or for evil. You know? So the next one I have is in 2 Maccabees, the 3rd chapter, the 21st verse. This is when Antiochus Epiphanes the fourth sent Heliodorus to collect a tax from Jake. And when he came there pompous, and the angels humbled and humiliated him, which is pretty much the same word. So this is 2 Maccabees 3:21. Then it would have pitied a man to see the falling down of the multitude of all sorts, and the fear of the high priest being in such an agony, right? Because, they were afraid because the Edomite military that was at this particular time, they were in control of Syria. They were coming to do damage. It says, then they called upon the Almighty Lord to keep the things committed to the trust safe and sure for those that had committed them. Nevertheless, Heliodorus executed that which was decreed. Now, as he was there present himself with his guard about the treasury, the Lord of spirits and the Prince of all power caused a great apparition, so that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of the Most High, and fainted, and were so afraid. Right, so Esau talking about they shoot down this, they shoot. You ain't shooting down nothing, my man. Those are delusions, Mr. E. Because when Yahushua and the angels appear with the chariots, you're going to be scared. And the Lord's going to put the spirit in you to fight. Because you're not going to, when you see it's one thing fighting against another jet, fighting against another man, but it's another thing when you're fighting against an angelic being and an angelic craft. The movie 13th Warrior, when they thought that this thing that they were fighting was half bear and half man, this guy Antonio Banderas was scared. But then when he killed one and he saw that it was a man, it's a man. Then that changed the whole, trajectory of the war. So 2 Ezra 13:8 says, and after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together, meaning the militaries of the world, because that's who Yahushua is coming to fight against, to subdue him, were what? Sore afraid. And yet there's fight. So the Lord is going to put the spirit on you to fight. So that all that presumed to come in with him were astonished at the power of the Most High, and fainted, and were so afraid. So when the Lord comes, you ain't going to be able to fight against that type of power. And the first hour of this movie ID4, which was an excellent movie at the beginning. Where the hell did it go? This was an excellent movie at the beginning, the first hour, but then the end was bullshit. These chariots were fucking Esau up. They was tearing their ass up. But then at the end, they gave the chariot a virus and all this bullshit. That's Esau's delusions, Mr. E. For there appeared unto them an horse with a terrible rider upon him. This is a chariot with an angel, and adorned with a very fair covering. And he ran fiercely and smote at Heliodorus with his forefeet. So these angels are fucking Heliodorus up, just to put it in layman's terms. I can't say it any plainer. I have to let you know how it is. And it seemed that he that sat upon the horse had complete harness of gold, right? Because the chariot was made out of gold. And it's possible that the angel himself was dressed in gold. This is why, what was the name of that movie? Clash of the Titans, I believe it was, when they showed, was it Clash of the Titans? When they showed this, so-called pantheon, the so-called gods, they showed them all in what? In gold and kind of in white. Because the angels are dressed like that, majestically. It says, with his forefeet, and it seemed that that sat upon the horse had complete harness of gold. Moreover, 2 other young men appeared before him. These are 2 other angels, notable in strength, excellent in beauty. So how in the hell are you going to fight against something like this. Notable in strength, excellent in beauty. They can appear, they can disappear. They could be in front of you, then they could be behind you. You know, they can be in front of you, and then they can go through you. You ain't gonna be able to fight against something like this. So this talk about shooting down of so-called chariots, those are delusions. And comely apparel, who stood by him on either side and scourged him continually. So these two angels were taking turns. They had this devil like a ping pong ball. They were smacking him back and forth. Here, pap, you know, here, take a piece of him, pop. They popped him a couple of times. And gave him many sore stripes. So they beat him within an inch of his life. And he almost died. It says, and Heliodorus fell suddenly onto the ground. He was like, I had enough. And was compassed with great darkness. God damn, they probably had black eyes, you know, big lumps on his head. He had a meat head with lumps on it. I mean, they rocked his world, man. They rocked this snot box. But they that were with him took him up and put him into a litter. Right, they had to carry him. Thus him that lately came with a great train and with all his guard into the said treasury. Right, he came with his army. They carried out, being unable to help himself with his weapons, and manifestly they acknowledged the power of the Most High. You devils, you're going to acknowledge the power of the Most High, man. You're not going to undermine the Most High anymore. You're going to acknowledge that power. Because the Lord is going to make it so. He going to make you bow, devil. You're a proud devil, but he going to make you bow. For he, by the hand of the Most High, was cast down and lay speechless without all hope of life. And you're going to be speechless. All this shit, all this proud talking that you do, Esau, it's going to be reduced to not even a whisper. But they praised the Lord that had miraculously honored his own place. And when the Lord delivers the elect, that's also what's going to happen. Be affrighted, but yet gave praises to Yahweh Bashem El Shai for the deliverance. For the temple, which a little afore was full of fear and trouble, when the Almighty Lord appeared, was filled with joy and gladness. Right. Because they kicked this devil's ass, you know, which threatened Israel. And this is what the Lord is coming to do. He's coming to destroy Esau, his military, and the military of these nations for the controversy of Zion. Touch not my anointed and do my prophets no harm. So that whole shooting down of these chariots was all total nonsense, BS. It's a distraction, but hey, he gonna do what he gonna do, but the Lord is controlling him on the left-hand side. So with that, I pray that you brothers and few sisters have been edified. To the next time I say, Shalom.